I assume that part of your interest was driven by an interest in baseball and being a fan of Augie and the teams, but key to successful documentaries is often getting access, and clearly you got great access here. Was that a difficult thing for you, Coach, to provide that sort of access that gives some pretty intimate moments in the locker room, that sort of thing? I mean, how did that decision come about, and how did that process go?
Well, Franklin and Rick are the only two guys that I would have ever given that kind of access to. And I knew I could be myself and do what I needed to do for the team, let the cameras roll, and I trusted their decisions completely. And I didn't know what was going to be the result of it, but that's the way I felt, and it turned out, for me, better than I could have ever hoped for. So it was all about relationships.
It's an interesting question, though, because I mean, I think Augie trusted us, but that trust he put in us kind of, I don't know, I felt really compelled to, I thought we could be completely honest, you know, with the film, but it was up to me to be honest with the situation and provide the right context. You know, when Augie gets mad at the team after the Nebraska game, you could put that out and give it no context, and it means something completely different than what I think is around it. So to me, that was the honest approach to that, you know. And the guys at ESPN said, you know, they've had other, you know, films and, you know, segments with, you know, a coach on a mic, or I don't know if you saw that Spike Lee Kobe thing recently. I mean, people are acting. They know they're on. They know it's going to be. They said they'd never seen anyone like Augie who was that, just never seemed to ever think that he was being filmed or it was on record or anything. So that, I think that was the key to this movie. You know, first getting made and then what it is too. So, you know, a lot of those things, they're just fake. You know, the locker room, they know they're kind of performing for someone who's not in the room. That was just not the case here. It was amazing. That's when I knew it was going to be something kind of special.
Coach Garrido, you talked earlier in the film about borrowing from basketball and from football kind of the science of practice, especially in a time when not a lot of that science was applied to baseball as a sport. Can you expound on some of the specifics that have helped you with kind of everyday baseball, of day-over-day specifics with players?
I guess what I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer that question directly or accurately, but my influence was Coach Biden on the fundamentals, Coach John Wooden about tempo, rhythm, simplicity, consistency, and then football coaches like Bear Bryant and people like that were highly successful in practice organization, where they broke things down on an individual basis, a combination, skills, everything put on time. And so that's what I was referring to in the film. And it was a good process. Now it's being used a lot, and but that's how I got to it. Baseball, I hated baseball practices. I liked basketball practices a lot more than baseball, because it was like the game. You got to go play, and you got to shoot the ball, you guarded people, you did things. You had fun in basketball practice. At baseball practice, one guy hit, one guy threw, and 20 guys stood around. You know, and there was nothing going on. It was boring. And so that's kind of what I mean about the boundary. Who the hell set these rules? You know? So let's find something better. So that's where it came from, a combination of all that.
I was wondering if you could just talk a little more about the process of, like, when you first had the first idea to do this documentary, and what were some of the big challenges you came across on shooting it and editing?
I don't know. I think having known Augie, been a fan of the team, and been out there a few times, you know, to practice, and I just thought, wow, it would be so cool to just kind of, if Augie would let us, you know, put a mic on him and, you know, we follow around for a year. So I think we just sort of, you know, he gave us the permission, and we got the permission from the university, and off we were running, you know, kind of self-financed, and a couple cameras going at all times, and, you know, we just sort of, it started. And I was really lucky personally that ESPN kind of came in about halfway and got behind the movie. But I don't know, it felt really organic. You know, I've been doing other films and other things like that, and I had never made a documentary of this size. I made some short documentaries, but this just seemed like a worthwhile project. You know, it's really interesting to get into someone's life.
I want to thank you, Coach, for I think the openness you showed in this documentary is the openness you've shown on your radio shows. And as you've done that and expressed your philosophy, you renewed for me my childhood love for baseball that was lost when the pros went on strike before the World Series, and I said, the hell with you guys, and I didn't care. And I never would have thought that a college baseball team would have renewed my love for when I was a kid. But you have, and I really appreciate the way you share your philosophy of life and how it transcends the sport.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, Coach, I also want to thank you for sharing so much of yourself. You obviously have garnered a lot of respect and love from your players, and I think you must be really proud of that. And I was a little surprised to find you'd had other coaching jobs before the University of Texas. that was nice to see as well. I have like 100 questions I could ask. What I really want to know is, based on the last couple of days, I'm wondering if you're thinking about calling for the closer in the Super Regional in like the 4th inning.
You don't control baseball. It's in control. You just try to react to the adversities and stick with it until you win. We heard that over and over again in this movie from the player's point of view and from my point of view. Do your best. You can't control it. It's like the artistic process. It's about a performance. It's about the process itself. And that's when your genius comes out, and it's really true. What happens in all sports is when you try, you lose your rhythm and you lose your timing. For any of you that play golf, you know exactly what I mean, but whether it's dance or anything else. And it happens in baseball. So in that 25 inning, you know, we've always told the players, let's be the best. So now we're the best at being the longest.